Hello everyone and welcome back to Satisfactory. In the last episode, we were able to turn on our turbo fuel power plant and get ourselves quite a few megawatts to get us started for the mid-game. But as much troubleshooting as we did, we still weren't quite getting the full megawatts that we deserve out of this power plant. And I'm gonna try to fix that a little bit more today, as well as do a little bit of organizing, putting in some walk paths, making some things look nicer, and turning this box into an actual building with accessibility as well. So if that is something that you're into, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't, and let's jump right in to Satisfactory. So to make this building beautiful and all of this stuff walkable and pretty, we're gonna need a few extra things. And the only way to do that is to go home and unlock a few things in the awesome shop. I'm sure we have quite a few coupons saved up. We have been sinking tons of materials in the background, so I can only imagine about how many we have. Currently, we only have about 11, and that's not going to be enough. A lot of the stuff that we want, well, it's not going to just cost 11 tickets. We want more foundations, we want more of the organizational stuff like lights, some of these other walls and doors. I mean, it'd be nice to have doors to get inside of our buildings. All the different kinds of steel window frames, tilted walls, the different angled ramps up and down, and the inverted style as well. There's just a lot of stuff in here, and I can only imagine it's going to cost us tons of points. I wonder how hard at work Yield Coupon Creator has been working. 260 coupons. 260 coupons. Yeah, print my coupons, please. I'll take every one of those. Well, with 271 in total, I don't think anything is out of our reach. Oh my gosh, what all have I been doing? Well, we definitely want the factory cart. We can get the upgraded wall outlets, as well as the clean pipe look. I don't know if I'll ever use that. How about the hyper tubes? Well, of course. Let's get the lights and the control for the said lights. We will take every one of the new paint finishes. I'm sure those will come in handy somewhere soon. The different foundation materials, yes please. Foundation patterns, well, we may find a place for something like that. Another wall material, half foundations, quarter pipe extension, inverted ramp, corner pack. Yeah, we are just gonna get all of it. And probably the most important thing, the roof, metal pillars, frames, fences, railing, more frames, and Mr. Road Barriers. I'm gonna tell you right now, road barriers are probably your best friend. They come in handy in so many different occasions, allowing you to put angled walls in and some other things, and we'll get into that later, so stick around and I'll show you some tricks that I know. With all of those things in total, we're looking at 180 coupons. We'll just buy them all.
The Fix-It Factory card navigates on Fix-It foundation surfaces with extreme efficiency. Not intended for use on hazardous terrain, mildly hazardous terrain, reasonably safe terrain, or general terrain. Fix-It reserves the right to subtract damage to or loss off vehicle from your Save the Day completion bonus package. For more information about this bonus package, please visit our information booth in Earth, open on the first Tuesdays and Wednesdays of the month, between 6:25 a.m. and 6:53 a.m.
Yeah, factory cart, unless it's on concrete, it doesn't do very good, but it is a lot of fun to tool around in. We'll play with that maybe a little later. But for now, I say we go back and we start decorating. Okay, so where do we want to start in on first? Well, I do need to get rid of all of this, but I'm going to try to use up as much of this materials as I possibly can in the decorations of what we have here. First things off, as I would say, walkability. We want to be able to walk up and down a lot of this stuff, checking in on our generators, trying to find out where things are and if they're working or not. You know, red lights and all that jazz. As you can see, we do have some red lights still hanging about. And why is that? We're just not getting that turbo fuel just quite like we wanted to. Wait a minute. 5,000 capacity? Shouldn't this be showing the entirety of it? Why wouldn't it be doing that? Is this not hooked up? No, these are all hooked up to each other. Those are all hooked up to each other there. What? Oh my gosh, it's not hooked up. So wait a minute, this is on a different grid? 47,000? This is on its own grid of 5,000? 6,000? Oh my gosh, we found a part of our megawatts. See? Walkability, making things better already. And look at that jump. 48,000 to 54,000 megawatts. 55,000 megawatts. There we go. Now it all makes much more sense. So that's why I want to make things walkable. Look down each row. See if there is a few of these that I still don't have connected. How are we going to do the walkability? Well, there's a couple things you can do, but I think going down the middle here is the best thing to do. So we can put something that goes down here with a walking path, and it'll be just fine. And with all of these brand new things, we should have no problem indeed figuring out how to do it. So many new foundations and corner pieces and upper corner pieces, lights and all kinds of switches and hyper tube holes. Those will come in handy, I'm sure of it. But to start everything off, I think we'll just come over here with some simple catwalks and make things a little bit more accessible. Maybe have something come off this way or off a different direction. I'm not really sure. I just kind of play with it and see what I can find. Do I want to go this high? Do I want to go up the ramps instead? It's one of those things where you play around, find out what works, put things in place, and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's going to be kind of a lot of pop-ins, just because you got to take it one step at a time. These things sometimes don't quite line up with your builds, so you got to figure some solutions out. Another place to kind of figure out some pathing is over here. Now, we have all of these fuel lines going in, and they go to pumps in the background, and I want to be able to observe that. So I just kind of poked a hole in here. And since we're talking about the barriers earlier, I can show you what I mean by the barriers and how helpful they can be. So you can kind of put a barrier down anywhere on a foundation or on a catwalk or anything else that you need. And then if you want to put a wall on it, it's pretty easy to do so. You just hold control and hover over where the barrier is and boom, a wall goes in its place. So that means you can fit it in the middle, and it's really handy to do stuff like that because then you can have like an inset door like this is going to be. So we'll go ahead and set down our barrier, and then we'll grab our door piece and control click it right in its spot. And boom, now we have a cool little door right here. And then we got to figure out a way to get over here and sort of box this in. I think having some kind of rail along here, you know, for safety purposes, that would be a good start. Like the industrial railing. Yeah, that'll look good around here. And then we'll bring something around here because I want to be able just to see all these, look at them and see what they're doing. Maybe they're doing something awesome. Maybe they're not. I got no idea. And in the meantime, we'll clean up some of the mess that we left behind. You know, some of these things were made in a hurry because we were in panic mode. But yeah, for the most part, everything should be pretty good. I think we're set and there's no need for panic anymore. Of course, as they say, those are famous last words, and I don't want them to be my last ones. So it's a nice platform that sits here, but the thing is, it's a floating platform. But with all of those things we spent coupons on, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. We can just go ahead and zoop down some frames and make it look like it's holding it up here. Not too bad. Simple, but pretty handy. And these frames, oh my gosh, they come in so handy so many other places. Other things you can do to make these look nice is use these steel frame inverted ramps. And they kind of just sit here. They don't get in the way of too much, so it looks good with the power cable going through it and all that jazz. But again, with most of these things, when I'm designing, I just kind of come over somewhere, put something down, check it out, see if I like it. If I don't, I erase it. If I like it, it stays. Simple enough. And there's really not too much thinking to be done with it. That's what I like. I mean, I'm not some of those one guys that you see who design these amazing structures, and I don't have the skill to do that kind of stuff. So I typically have boxes with fancy trim, lots of fancy trim. So this is kind of one of those spots where I'm telling you, I kind of have to make concessions. And the reason for that is I wanted this to match up to it, but from the placement of where I have this, it's just not working out. I've tried a lot of different things to get this to be in the place I want it to, doing weird curves and things of that nature, but I also still want to have that walkability underneath and around. And having something like this, I mean, that's a headache just waiting to happen. So yeah, it's just gonna be something where I think I come over close to that ladder there, and that's just gonna have to be the best I can do. And we go up like so. Yeah, and we'll figure out all the handrails on the rest of this stuff once we get there. The bad thing is that's probably not gonna work in every one of these, but we're gonna try hard. We're gonna try real hard to get the things that we want done. The other kind of big bummer that we've got going on here is some of these are a little bit higher than others. So getting them to fit in the way I want, we're having to, again, make some concessions. I hope that I might be able to bring this back just enough to get this to do some walkability up and over. I just don't want to clip, but I don't want to go ridiculously high. Now, ramps go up less than stairs, so that's something to keep in mind. You'll need more ramps than stairs to get the same height. And I don't believe that they're equal height either, so one will be just slightly taller than the other until you use like 30 of them or something ridiculous. But the idea is we're just gonna come right down here, try something out, watch for clipping, and then get the things that we want. And go straight down. Now, again, we have to stay above that pipe, so to keep things kind of even, I think I'm gonna have to go a little high on this. Yeah, I don't think we could probably sacrifice another ramp down to make this work. We could try out, see what it says. No, that seems to be working, so we can probably go down one more set of ramps. But yeah, this is kind of my design process. Put something down, look at it, see what I like, make changes, and go from there. And yeah, I just want to make some walkability down each of these. Now, if I can go down to the floor, like in this particular spot, I'll probably just have a ramp go down and boom, we're on the floor. It's easy. As far as getting up here, if I can make sure that I can get to each one of these ladders, that would probably be the best thing. But probably the biggest project on hand is two things. Number one, I am noticing that we are getting quite a bit of hesitation in a lot of these. And I think we can balance these out a lot better. We can do a little bit of kind of load balancer, but it's not really a load balancer. The reason is I doubt we're getting enough fuel out of this particular line, as these are getting hung up. If there's no space for the canisters to go, well, they're not going to spit out their fuel. And I really want them to spit out their fuel. The fuel is more important than the canisters. Now, I did mention that I saved all this space here just particularly in case I needed to load balance, and it looks like it's definitely going to happen. So this whole line here probably needs to go away, and this whole line here needs to go away until we figure out where we're going to do the load balancing. Now, the idea that I have is that we can have a lot of the stuff on top come in, be load balanced, and then go out on the other side. So empty canisters come in here, get load balanced, and go out. Water comes up on the top, gets balanced, and goes out. I doubt that the water needs as much balancing as the empty canisters do. Now you might say to yourself, what do you mean by load balancing? Well, it's kind of easy with smart splitters. So what you do is you set a smart splitter here, where you want things to go. And then you're going to go ahead and put a merger right behind that. And the reason we're putting a merger here, there's going to be another smart splitter here with a merger directly behind it. So let's pretend that this line here is full. Well, if it is, the smart splitter sends it over to this one. And if it's empty, it'll send it into here and out to the other line. And then the same thing happens again, just another tier down. Another smart splitter to split set items off into this one and a merger behind it, and so on and so forth, all the way down. So we'll have 5 lines coming in and 5 lines going out. We can just do this kind of like so, and it should be all right. I think that having all 5 lines here, we can still see a lot of the operation that's happening, and it'll be much more even. Now the big thing is when all said items get down to the very last one, what ends up happening is where does this one go? Well, you send it on a conveyor lift all the way to this one and merges back in. And this splitter sends it all the way back as well. It's just kind of a simple way of load balancing because I don't want to have too many canisters on the line. And we can set something up for it to skirt off any excess that is already there. I just want to make sure it has enough to keep things moving. I want that fuel unpacked and in the lines. More fuel equals more turbo fuel. More empty canisters equals more water, which equals more diluted fuel. So I'm going to set this up and I'm going to try to get as much of it done as quickly as possible. The big kind of scary part is when I disconnect the water lines and the empty canister lines. I don't want to cause any trouble from when I do that. We should have enough in the buffer system to make it work, and I've got lots of empty canisters over here. So plenty to put back on the line if I need to, and we might do that as well. Have them shift through and come into an empty canister if they can't go anywhere, and then also have a whole bunch of new canisters going in. Almost packing the lines completely, but not overfilling them. And then we'll try and do the same thing here with the water. We'll have all the water come in and do all its stuff, and we'll figure out where it's coming in and where it's going out. The more farther back we can go, I think is going to be better. So probably about this far. That would be where I'm going to guess it's going to be, but it could go shorter. I don't know. I just want to make sure that the lines and I have enough space to do all the splitters and mergers. I don't have to really worry too much about how close they all are to each other, because that is the big worry. And also making sure I get this done the first time, the right time. Okay, so water shuffler done. And like I said, I did this one first because there's less likely of a mess up here. Most of the machines probably are full of water, so I can horse around with this one to make sure it works. So here's the basic principle. It comes in here, hits this merger. This merger is getting fed by this splitter, but if it can go through, it will. If this splitter is hung up, it'll just shoot it down to the next merger, which will feed it into the next splitter, depending on if it is or is not full, continues down the line. Once it gets to this splitter, it has to decide, can I go out and onto the refineries, or do I send it up and over this path back to the beginning so that it is getting fed as well? So each of these basically feeds off each other. Now the one hang up could be is if this line gets full. But as I said, if we balance out all the canisters, we shouldn't ever have a problem where we have too much water. The water will either balance itself out or it won't have enough canisters to fill up, which is kind of balancing itself out. So the last thing to really do is hook up the water. Now, I know there's clipping here, but trust me, all these water lines are going bye-bye. And I tightened up all the space here. I put a couple double wall holes, and that'll probably do everything we need to do. It's nice and tight, it looks pretty, and that's all that matters. So we go and find a line and hook it up. So this particular line here on the outside, I'm leaving it there. I say we start with this one. It's a full 480 belt, and we can just grab it, put it where it's supposed to go, and bring said line directly to it. Now, there we go. And then it should send it off, and we can hook it back up to this particular line. So now we just bring that down in line with the rest of them, be okay with the clipping for a few moments. We'll fix this line here, but then it hooks right back up, and boom. And it's getting shuffled. As you can see, we've already gotten other ones done, so the shuffling is working. All the other lines have water in it. So as we were kind of paused there for a bit, it shuffled all of the water to the appropriate other lines. So we know it's working. And if we know that one is working, we know that it's safe to do all the others. And boom, just like that, all the water reshuffled and organized. At the same time, I went ahead and did a lot of the canisters as well. Had them reshuffle come in underneath the water, and now this area looks busy, busy, busy. Like a true factory. I also added in some walkability. That way we can kind of observe things as they come across here. Look down at our miraculous marvel awesomeness that we have just created. So as I said, and as you can see, they're sending over different water as it's needed. As soon as this line is full, it's shuffling them over. And it goes all the way down to any place that needs the water, such as this one right here. So eventually, these things will overpopulate themselves and be full of water, and be giving water to this particular line, which probably needs it more than any. It is that little line that's right here. It needs a scotch more water than the rest of them. But as far as the canister one, well, it works basically the same way. The only difference is that I went ahead and put a smart splitter up here. Now, any overflow that happens in this particular line will eventually start filling up this here with empty canisters. So, if I need them, it'll give them to them. If I don't need them, well, there we go. Maybe we got that number just perfect. Yeah, right. But at the same time, I've just started kind of a little bit of decoration. Put in a walk path and some other things. Now, this guy, he's the one I'm after next. I've already kind of started by putting in some of this glass, but the really bad thing about this glass is it doesn't allow you to put in any of the other kind of walls in. And I do like having those angled looks to this. It's the only kind of design I do when I have one of these buildings. It's a box. I put windows on it, and then I put an angle on it. And that's it. That's the extent of my design work. But I think that we can do better. I think we can definitely make this look better. For starters, we have all of this blank space here, and we could do just about anything up here. My intentions are to build kind of an observatory, a thing where we can look down at the factory to make sure everything is going well. But a simple box on top of a box, I don't think that is a good idea. So, I am going to make a circle. And it's going to go up, like a pagoda type of a building on top of here. Now you might say circles. Circles are difficult things to do. You would be right, especially because this building is not even. 12 is never a good number to work with when you're trying to make a circle. You need an odd number. But we can make this an odd number. And how do I plan on doing that? Well, half foundations. Half foundations can do some really cool things. You can make half foundations on each end. So I can put one there and then one on the opposite end. And now I've just lost an entire foundation. From there, we can build out the rest of our foundation all the way to the other one. And it'll match up. And now we have an odd number of foundations with a half foundation space to the edge. That's going to come in real handy. And now we have 11 foundations. So, where's the middle? Well, it's this one right here. How do you make circles? Well, let me show you. So how are we going to turn this observatory into a circle? Well, the first thing you have to do is find your centerpiece. Now we have 5 going out straight this way and 5 going straight out this way. The half foundation just scooted us over so we'd have an odd number. And then the next thing you've got to do is underneath that middle one, you've got to lay a foundation down. And that is the key to all of this. With that one there, you should be able to make a circle however you want. The lower middle foundation of the cross that you just made, it is what's key. The reason is once you click it and you hold control, you're able to turn this as many times as you want in a 360 degrees on this one tile. But we don't want to go too much. So once we line it up where it's exactly supposed to be perfect with that tile, we're going to scroll with our mouse wheel twice, and then it'll be in just the right spot so that when you pull it out here, it lines up with your other foundation. There's a slight edge of clipping, but that can be solved with walls. You can take a wall, put right on the outside of this, make it out of some kind of material that blends together well, and it's very hardly noticeable. If you want to get rid of it completely, you just put a beam there. Once a beam is there, it just looks like it belongs there. So then once you get it kind of set, you just go out like you did before, going out 5 tiles in each direction. Then delete all those tiles again, grab a new foundation, hold control, and we went 2 before, so now we'll go 4. 2, 3, 4. Lay that foundation down, and then zoop again. And it comes right to the edge of the previous foundation. Now you do have to do this kind of over and over again, and it does take time. It is probably one of the most time-consuming things to do in Satisfactory. I mean, laying 200 foundries, well, there's a blueprint for that. There's not a blueprint for this. I guess you could, because you could just have this piece over and over and over again where you could just blueprint it in, but I don't think it would work that way. I don't know. So I'm going to start in on my circle. I'm going to get this somewhat put together, and then I'll show you what a circle looks like in the end. And in no time, you end up with something like that. Now, there is a lot of Z fighting happening, as they call it, which is the fact that these are clipping over each other and they want to fight. And so it has this like weird flashing that happens a lot of the times. You can kind of see it right here if you look real close. I just want this for the outside walls. So all of these pieces need to stay. All of these pieces, they can go. So yes, that's a whole lot of work for 20 or odd pieces. But I'm telling you, when we get this sucker done, it'll totally be worth it. And you'll be like, Addo, that was amazing. But for now, I'm gonna leave it here. And I'll leave that cross in the middle. I'll have to fill in that ceiling later, but we'll go ahead and settle for this circle for now. The next thing is, well, figuring out what I want to do with it. How high I want to go, what I want it to look like, how I want it to look like from there. This is the part where you just kind of hem and haw about things. Would I like to have a concrete border, a fix-it border, or the steel border? I'm not sure. On top of that, we should be able to put big walls as well. So that kind of goes in as well. Do I want to do steel walls? Do I want to do concrete walls? Yeah, I just gotta sit back and do something, look at it, see how I feel about it. Does it look pretty? Does it go together? Is there a combination? Do I want beams? Do I want something else? I don't know. So we'll kind of have to look at this in some phases, nearly completed phases. So I'll probably play around with this in the background, and then we'll look at what I've got done. It shouldn't take too long. All right, we're getting somewhere. So it looks pretty good right now. It definitely is more transparent than I want it to be, but I think I can fix that. I've got an idea of how to fix that. But for now, we've got like 3 tones on this. I went with the fix-it trim on the bottom, and then I have a steel trim on top with a bit of concrete, and then beams in between all of those to kind of hide the corners. And then I went around with the glass roofs because it does give this cool little triangle at the top. It's technically clipping, but it looks like it goes together. It looked really good, so I just went around the edge with that. And then on top of that, I went ahead and put another ring, and I decided to put a box on top of it with some angled walls, using a fancy little beam trick, which I can show you on another wall. Okay, so what you do is you delete all the ones that you don't want anything to snap to, and then you add a foundation down at the bottom here. Once you have a second layer down, what I've been doing is taking the painted beam on freeform and getting it right here in this corner, and then putting it in the exact same corner over here. And it almost perfectly matches up. Now, it's not absolutely perfect, but it's pretty close. It's about as close as I think I can get it. Now, the good thing is I can put a road barrier on this, and that's super handy. So I'll press H to hold the road barrier in place, and then I'll nudge it. I'll nudge it with controlled push. If you do control over, it nudges it just a little bit. If you do one over without control, you can see it's quite a bit of difference. So I can carefully nudge things where I want them to be. And I want this road barrier right there. Then I can take a wall, place one there, delete road barrier, and put a wall there. Once this wall's up, I can hold and nudge this one into place. And then 2 walls completely flush with each other, all the way up. And then these unsightly corners can just be hidden with beams. Just like that. And it's a nice little corner piece, an inlet of sorts. And I can do that on all 4 of them. At the same time, I'm kind of playing around with having something here just to break up the amount of space that's nothing in this big square. Now, why is there a big square on top of this? Well, I thought about it, and I don't think I want a big cylinder going all the way up. I need something to break up that shape. And a big square on top of a circle, well, it looks pretty cool. And on top of that, I already got an entrance made up. I even put some lights in, and I clipped some of the street lights in so that I can have lighting going up the stairs. We won't know if that's working well until I get power up here. But this brings me to my main floor, and it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm thinking about going at least 2 window frames up, and we can do some designs in the window frame if we need to. These ones here, you can clip walls into it, so you can have like windows and angles that go down it. These are much better windows to deal with. I really wish you could do it with the other ones, like the beehives and all the other framed windows, but you can't. I don't know, but it's okay. The big issue right here is going to be making sure that we have something that we can put here to finish off this floor. I think these might work, but I'm not sure. We might have to try the up ones. Oh my gosh, that actually works out almost perfectly. Well, there's a little bit of a gap. Don't lose your cell phone down that. But other than that, it's just building this up. Now, what do we want up here? Well, I'm thinking about bringing all of the power stations up here and having them somewhere. So if I need to turn something off and have a priority power switch, I can do so. I just don't know if, where, and all that other stuff. The other thing is I need some hypertubes that come up here. So a hypertube cannon room might be this. We can hide all of this staircase and everything that's going on here with these floaty platform things. Yeah, it's a lot of clipping in the background. If you ever wonder how your favorite builders make things happen, this is it. This is the behind the scenes look of stuff. There's a lot of empty spaces and empty rooms and half walls, and they do a lot of tricky things to make things happen. Now, as far as fixing able to see down in here, I was thinking, I believe I have those tilted walls at 4 meters. I might be able to do something where I put a tilted frame wall like so all the way around, and then you can't see in here. I don't know how that's going to look as far as clipping on the inside, but it should match up with the frames of the windows. And then what we can do is just like paint them black, and then you'll never notice it. Something like that. I don't think that looks too half bad. Looks like it's got shaded in case of a nuclear fallout or something like that. Yeah, we're not even doing anything with nuclear yet. But this is the basic idea. I'm testing out lights, but I don't know if I like it. And they're being difficult. I don't know if I'm going to play around with them more. But I think this is the basic design. So I think it's time to just kind of finish this up and play around with it some more and put a roof on it. Boom. Well, what do you think? I think it looks pretty good, and all of the lights are working. I was able to get them all turned on, and this looks spectacular. Oh my gosh, I love it. Now, there's not as much lighting up here because I did some double ramped walls to go up to make the ceiling. That way we wouldn't see the roof. And yeah, that cable's there for now just so that I could see if I could turn the lights on. But I think this is kind of what I want to do. I might move the workbench over here to make it make sense with the lighting. But yeah, this is really cool. I can look out, I can see my factory as soon as those foundations are gone. I can make sure that everything is moving and grooving, that we have all the lights and they're all green and all that stuff. Yeah, this is a pretty good little design, I think. I don't know. You let me know in the comments what you think about it. Now, getting up here, that's the tough part. We're going to have to figure out some hyper tubes that probably come up the side and just shoot me up here to get to the pagoda. But I think that this is pretty much done. Now, there's another thing that I kind of want to do, but haven't really thought about too much, which is the train station. I want a train station coming in here. I think we have a lot of oil to still process into something. We have plenty of space to do it in here still. But I think the only spot I have is over here where these batteries are. Now, unfortunately, I think our batteries, they're going to have to move. And I say unfortunately because when you destroy the batteries, you lose all their power. But this is the only place I can think to have a train come in. The main reason I say that is because I'm thinking ahead of our train track, and our one that goes around the world will probably come through this biome here. This is a really good spot to bring a train into this biome and out. We could turn up and probably go this way, but it's really tough to navigate through this part of the map. There's a perfect little hole right here that goes into the swamp area. You can come up through here and then navigate around this rock and then go through this narrow gap. It gets wider as you get taller, and then it can go down into the swamp area and gather up materials there. And then on this side, it's really nice to have the train come up and go through here and then around and into the grassy fields and out. That all being said, basically this is the only place that I could think of to match up the train to the main network that's probably going to come through here and be on the outside of this edge. I don't know. Logistically, that makes the most sense. I think these are some pretty steep inclines and trains would just have trouble with that. And we are doing a 2-train track system. So basically the outside of this cliff right here is where it's going to come up. So that means that the train has got to come in right through here and come in and straight into where these are. So they're pretty tight. I don't think I can get any walls or framework around it, but we've got plenty of space on this side. So I think these all need to move a little bit to the right. All right, they're all plugged back in and they're all charging again. It shouldn't take too long, not with us making 54,000 megawatts. I feel kind of dumb, but pretty smart at the same time, how we found that we were missing out on about 6,000 megawatts because of one wire not being hooked up. Every time I see one not hooked up at the end now, I just continue to hook it up, just in case. But anyways, the train station. All right, so I'm thinking we're gonna have like a big piece of metal frame here at the beginning. Now, how many high do I need to go? I'm thinking at least 3, if not 4. I don't know, I'll play around with the height. We can always adjust it if we need to match up with the ground level. So building our train station, it shouldn't be too bad. We could just go like so and come across all the way on top of these things. I think that's going to be the best way to do it. Now, the good thing about these frames, and the reason I really like them, not only are they aesthetically pleasing, but you can fit foundation pieces inside of it. It tends to be a little tricky, but there's a good way of doing it so that it's not so tricky. Once you get one on the outside like this, then you can just plop one down on the inside and then zoop it as far as you want it to go. I like this look of having the foundation and the frame as part of each other. Definitely something that looks good from the distance. You could do a 4-meter foundation if you wanted. I don't know. I like the 1 and 2 meter foundations in this. From here is just zooping in a whole bunch of foundations, and then we'll come up with a design on the outside. I want this to look kind of open. I mean, the whole factory is just an open-faced factory, so I don't want to clog it up with a whole bunch of closed up buildings. The only one I wanted to close up, that was that compact coal. Yeah, so something like that. Makes it look like it's holding itself up every so often. And it gives us this breakup in the pattern here on the floor. There's a little Z fighting, but it's not too bad. And I also changed up the front of it a little bit. Gave it the angled frames. That way it kind of looks like it's holding up this piece, you know, where the train's coming in, and it's probably going to be its heaviest. But now we need a bit of a cover. I don't want to box it in like it's a building. I want to keep it open. Again, that's kind of the theme other than our pagoda over there. So I'm thinking that maybe these angled walls in combination with its counterpart walls would be how I'm going to do this. We can go up 2, and then we can go up 3, and then 4 would probably be where I would want to leave it. And then have angled pieces like this. So it's open, but it's not open. It's open, but it's closed in. Kinda. I don't know. That probably doesn't make any sense at all. From there, as far as the roof goes, I think I'm just gonna bring over some foundations like so. Maybe 2 wide. And it'll just kind of have this in tiers. Maybe we'll do something else on the other side. Again, just gotta play around with some ideas and get an idea of what it is exactly I'm looking for and how I want it to look. And just like that, train station complete. Lights and all. And for safety, guardrails. Let's see us fall off of it now. Don't worry, I'll find a way. And I put a little red X here to simplify the end of the line. Nice. I also put a piece of trim around the outside. That way it kind of covers up the foundations and where they meet. I painted the top painted beam with carbon steel. It matches everything else and it looks and blends in real nice. Okay, so what else is there to do really? Well, with the train station done and the pagoda is done and fuel being produced and we're getting enough power, I don't know what else there is to do here, but it really feels like I've forgotten something. Like there's just something itching at me. I was supposed to do... the geothermal generator. That's right. We wanted to put this sucker right here. Maybe, if it fits. May have to do a little bit of rejigging here, but it should just barely squeeze in and generate us a fair bit amount of more power here. You know, I don't think I've ever put one of these things in. Oh my. Huh, that's quite a machine you've got going on there, sir. And it actually works out pretty well that I can hop up right on here. Hey, I kind of like that. Nice. Well, let's get your free megawatts added to the grid and we'll go from there. Now, they make a variable amount of power, so it goes up to 600 and then comes back down. It's not a consistent amount, but you could probably count on at least 300 megawatts out of these things. So that's not too bad, considering we're making so much, but it totally fits into the aesthetic of this area. I do tend to have a lot of extra space here, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. For now, I think that's just about it. I hope you enjoyed this build as much as I did building it. It wasn't without its tragedies from time and time again, but we did knock it out of the park if you ask me. 54,000 megawatts? That's a lot of megawatts. The next big project, what will it be? Well, I think it's time to really centralize ourselves in a mega base. I think it's time to set that down, and if you have any suggestions on where we should build it, why don't you leave me a comment on the best place to ever build a mega base. While you're down there leaving a comment, there are 2 links in the description. One is for Patreon, where support on Patreon gets your name in the credits, as well as I'll name something after you in-game, if possible. The other link is for Discord, where we have a small but mighty group of people on our Discord channel. Discord is free to join, so feel free to stop on in anytime you want. But as always, the best way to support is to like and subscribe, as it does help the channel out. Hit the notification bell so you can be alerted of any time any Satisfactory or any other content gets uploaded to the page. Click one of the buttons on the screen right now to see what else we've played, and don't forget to keep gaming for the love of games. Bye now.